For most aspects of our life, our bodily autonomy is a fundamental right. We can choose what medical interventions, if any, are going to be used to prolong our lives. So why then is a terminally ill, competent adult stripped of their right to choose to end their own suffering? My name is Brianna McSwain, and I care about this particular topic because I am a phlebotomist at my local hospital, and I work around death and patient autonomy on a daily basis. And I have an interest in why terminally ill, competent adults can't choose to end their own suffering. So little did you know, physician-assisted suicide has been debated for thousands of years, but has been gaining more attention since the 1980s. It has been a topic of discussion since the ancient Romans and the Greeks. Some sides of the argument are patients should have bodily autonomy when it comes to wanting to end their life when they're terminally ill. They shouldn't due to sanctity of life, or it goes against the physician's oath of do no harm. Some definitions of key terms that I have are, according to ebsco.com, physician-assisted suicide is defined as, it refers to the practice where a physician prescribes lethal medication to a terminally ill patient who then self-administers the medication to end their life. This is vastly different from euthanasia, which is defined by the AMA Code of Medical Ethics as the administration of a lethal agent by another person to a patient for the purpose of relieving the patient's intolerable and incurable suffering. I believe that physician-assisted suicide should be legalized provided the legislation protects vulnerable populations. So my first main point we will talk about is how terminally ill patients are cared for currently. According to the National Institute on Aging, terminally ill patients are cared for under palliative care or hospice care. Most of us have heard of hospice care, but not of palliative care. Palliative care is defined as focused on improving the quality of life for people with serious illnesses and their care partners. Palliative care is care that can be given at any time in the person's diagnosis and can branch out into hospice care or comfort care and bereavement support. Hospice care, on the other hand, is defined according to the National Institute on Aging as focuses on care, comfort, and quality of life of a person with a serious illness who is approaching the end of their life. The National Institute on Aging claims that palliative care has a range of professionals who help patients and their families with medical, social, emotional, and practical supports. Hospice care is similar, but the key difference is that all attempts to cure and or slow down the disease or diseases are stopped. Most patients who are on hospice care have 6 months or less to live if the illness they have takes its natural course. My second point is euthanasia versus physician-assisted suicide. These two words have similar definitions. According to EBSCO, physician-assisted suicide is defined as physician-assisted suicide refers to the practice where a physician prescribes lethal medication to a terminally ill patient who then self-administers the medication to end their own life. Euthanasia, on the other hand, is defined according to the AMA Code of Medical Ethics as Euthanasia is the administration of a lethal agent by another person to a patient for the purpose of relieving the patient's intolerable and incurable suffering. The key difference being another person administering lethal agents versus the patient themselves administering the lethal agents. These two definitions seem to get used interchangeably when in actuality there is a big difference between the two. My third point is about the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath itself even has different interpretations. We will talk about how the Hippocratic Oath relates to physician-assisted suicide and what a couple of these interpretations are. EBSCO says that the Hippocratic Oath is a document written in the 5th century BCE to offer guidelines for the emerging medical profession, which continues to be the subject of debate in modern practice because of the ethical issues that it addresses. When we think of do no harm, we think of the Hippocratic Oath, but the actual oath itself in modern times doesn't state this. It's more focused on changing with the times and how the public sees the medical profession. Now we are going to discuss a counter argument for legalizing physician-assisted suicide. One of those counter arguments is that it destroys the sanctity of life. According to the AMA Medical Code of Ethics, physician-assisted suicide is fundamentally incompatible with the physician's role as a healer, would be difficult or impossible to control, and would pose serious societal risks. Christianity also opposes PAS, and according to the Catholic Health Association, the emerging debate surrounding physician-assisted suicide forces all members of society to pause and clarifies the shared assumptions about life and death that our laws are meant to protect. The Church has a rightful place in this public discussion because the issues surrounding death are not only medical and legal, but they are religious and moral as well. As someone who's been with the dying, and as a person in the medical community, I would like to argue that legislation should be legal for PAS, physician-assisted suicide, as long as the patient is mentally competent and protected otherwise. Religious factors can and should be considered as well, as long as the patient wants this. Otherwise, religious factors should not be considered. Church and state are always going to be at odds with one another, but one governs only a few people and the other governs the entire population. The church governing only a few people versus the government governing the entire population. So while we should respect religious views on physician-assisted suicide, should we only allow the religious population to govern laws concerning this medical practice? So in conclusion, in the beginning, I posted the question of stripping the rights of terminally ill competent patients of their right to choose physician-assisted suicide. Why should we? Do we have the right as people to do this? Do we have the right legally to? The answer to these questions is not black and white, but very gray. There isn't a yes or no answer to these posed questions, only how can we compromise to best serve the terminally ill? We talked about what the difference is between PAS and euthanasia and what the key differences are and why these terms should be used or could be used interchangeably in the wrong way. Then we spoke about the differences between palliative care and hospice care, and finally the Hippocratic Oath and how it could be interpreted. We also discovered that there are counter arguments for making legislation against PAS. I would like for you to stand up for those who are trying to stand for themselves but can't. We all have inalienable rights according to the Constitution. The right to die if terminal incompetence should be included in that statement. Please also educate yourself. This is the best way to fight back. No one can take your knowledge away from you. The more we stay ignorant on this subject, the more the terminally ill suffer. We may not all suffer before death, but what if you did? What if it was someone you knew? What if it was a loved one of yours that was in pain and suffering? Would you do everything you could to keep them alive, but in pain, or let them go how they want to? Would you want those you love to keep you alive, even though you're in pain or suffering? These are all questions we ultimately have to face one day, whether we want to or not. Will you make a difference? Thank you for your attention, willingness to learn and listen.